Hi, I'm Chase from the Franklinton Branch of the Columbus Metropolitan Library. This month we have some great resources for you about conflict resolution. And in this video, conflict resolution specialist Mike Gregory is going to share some information with you about conflict resolution and some tips for solving problems. So please enjoy the video. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Mike Gregory, and today I'm going to talk with you about overcoming your conflicts with de-escalation. I'm the owner of and founder of Michael Gregory Consulting, LLC, a firm that's dedicated to collaboration and to overcoming conflicts. I'm a qualified mediator with the Supreme Court here in Minnesota. I'm in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and I do volunteer work associated with housing court, conciliation court, neighborhood disputes in public housing, and I've mediated between gangs and after racially charged police shootings. But today I'm going to talk with you very briefly about overcoming your conflicts with de-escalation. What I'm going to introduce to you today is absolutely that. It's an introduction. Hopefully this might give you some ideas, and I'm going to give you some sources you might think about for expanding your own horizons on how to help de-escalate situations. One of my books is called Peaceful Resolutions. We're going to focus on chapter 1, The Art of De-escalation. But I'm going to give you a homework assignment or something for you to challenge yourself on enhancing your own listening techniques and the art of listening out of this book. When this book was in proof copy, it came out. There was a police shooting in Minneapolis. Jamar Clark, an unarmed black man, was shot in the head and killed by 2 white police officers. This was a racially charged police shooting. This book was in proof copy, meaning it's not ready for the public yet. I could give it to others to read and give comments to me back on the book. But the next day I stopped work and I took the book and I brought it to the mayor, to the police chief, and to the Hennepin County attorney. Hennepin County is where Minneapolis is located. And 6 months later, the police chief had an announcement during a noon press conference and said, these are the first 50 police officers in Minneapolis of 750 police officers who've gone through de-escalation training for a week. And we're going to promote de-escalation training of our officers going forward. Well, since then, I've been involved with the healing process after the shooting of not only Jamar Clark, but Philando Castile in Falcon Heights, Minnesota, and with George Floyd in Minneapolis. And I'm still involved with that here as a volunteer in the Twin Cities to help facilitate conversations, to promote peaceful resolutions and listening to one another and moving forward in a positive way and learning from these things. That having been said, I want to share with you and thank some folks who work with me. Erica Garnes, she's a neuroscientist here in the Twin Cities who wrote the book, The Brain-Friendly Workplace. Or John Molitor, I've just learned some things from him in the last month I'm going to share with you. He's a neuroscientist, PhD neuroscientist. He is a medical doctor. He's a psychologist from Michigan State University. And Rick Hansen, he's with the Greater Good Science Center. If you want to read some articles on this and other topics related to the brain, because neuroscience is growing exponentially. Books are really almost out of date compared to how fast this field is growing. You can belong to the Greater Good Science Center for free and gain insights on your own brain and in other activities besides just de-escalation. But I want to talk to you about the brain in a minute. We just have a minute. And that's about, there used to be something called the brain hijack with the amygdala up there at the top of the brain, that they thought those 2 elements about the size of your thumbnails, when they are triggered and you have a amygdala hijack, you can't really stop that. You have 6 to 10 seconds to stop it. And if you don't, your brain is hijacked and you have these chemicals and hormones which flood, that's what the term is, flood in your bloodstream and stay with you for up to 22 hours. Well, it turns out it's a lot more complex than that. That's what I just learned from Dr. John Molitor in just the last couple of weeks. Rather, it's our entire spinal cord and nervous system. What we smell can trigger something. What we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we touch, anything can help trigger us to get us angry. It's not just the amygdala, it's more complex than that. But the prefrontal cortex is 5% of the brain mass, 25% of the energy. It can overcome us getting angry. It's what stops you from getting angry so you don't get in really big trouble because you don't say or do something with appropriate folks, whether it be with your parents or whether it be with school or whether it be with friends. The prefrontal cortex can override this process. That's the cool thing. So how can we help the prefrontal cortex so we don't get as angry? Well, I'm going to get to that. It's all about something called the collaboration effect. That's all about connecting relationships with others. It's about listening actively. We're going to get into that. It's about educating judiciously, not the way you want to educate, but the way they want to be educated. And why are we doing this? Because it leads to building bridges and negotiating closure. Well, there are four types of four types of conflict. Interpersonal, meaning just myself. Interpersonal, that's between two people, you and me. Intergroup, that's within our group. And intergroup, that's between groups. Well, how can we address these? Well, let's talk about the first one, de-escalation of self. You've got to believe in yourself. I'll tell you, I was backing my car out of the garage. I had the rear hatch open. I hit the garage door. I wrecked the hatch. Am I angry? Yes, I'm angry. Am I frustrated? Yes. But you know what? I just told myself, focus. Focus. Okay, so what am I going to do now that I've done this? I could blame myself, but I put on the PowerPoint here, avoid the two stinky twins of BO and BS, blaming others or blaming self. Believe in yourself. What are we going to do? I have to have an attitude of, what am I going to do now that I've done that? It's an opportunity. Switch it from a negative to an opportunity. I'm going to learn how I'm going to have to talk with an insurance company and try and get my car fixed. I've given you a handout on de-escalation. Look at that handout. There are a number of tips of what you can do to de-escalate yourself and address yourself. And also the next step we're going to get to on de-escalation with others. And practice mindfulness. I do this every day. I've learned this through the Greater Good Science Center. And mindfulness can be prayer, meditation, reflection, or yoga, but that clears that prefrontal cortex. It's like rebooting your computer. If we do this 2 times a day for 10 minutes a day, it's very healthy. And studies have said if we do this for 3 weeks, find out people are calmer. They take life as it comes more easily. They're less prone towards anger. This can help you with de-escalation. How about between you and someone else? Say you were supposed to be home by a certain time with a curfew. You missed the curfew. You're coming in 2 hours late. Uh-oh, I'm right. No, I'm right too. You and your parents may have a little bit of a different perspective right now. You have to go into this with a positive attitude. You have to come in this with, we're not about blame. You have to come into this with, maybe right now is not the right time to talk about this. Maybe we should talk about this in the morning. But think about this as an opportunity. What can we do to de-escalate the situation so we can talk about it when we're calmer? I need to maybe just listen and close my mouth because somebody's going to say things, and what I say may be negative. Best thing I can do is to not have the interaction or to say, can we talk about it at a later time? These are things you want to do so you can build bridges to have the negotiation or the discussion at another time. And we all belong to different groups. We want to communicate with others. And oftentimes the way we communicate today is with a text. Well, it turns out about 7% of the attitude can be derived correctly from the text or from an email. And about 38% of the attitude in communication can be with the tone. So at least if we're talking to somebody on the phone, we've got about 45% of the attitude coming across. But about 55% of the attitude comes from our facial expression and body language. So clearly, to de-escalate, the best situation is if we're face to face, we can see each other, we can hear each other, we can hear the tone of voice, we can hear the actual words that folks are saying. Now, we belong to a given group, and sometimes we're not all together as a team like this team here, and sometimes there can be frictions within the group. Well, I'm going to share with you mediation of a 40-hour course in a soundbite. It's about what are the facts, what are the issues, what are the feelings behind each of those issues, and what are the interests? Behind every position is at least one interest, and interests are the keys to a solution. So you have your perspective of facts, but let's find out the other people's facts. And what do they see as the issue or issues? And how strongly do they feel about these? And what are the interests that they have going forward? We need to network with each other. And you could role play this with a friend before you talk with others within the group and see what could we do to help de-escalate this within our group. And then how about between groups? And in America right now, think of the reds and the blues and think of the friction between these two different folks. Well, the last bullet on here says braver angels. These are people who are coming together to have reds and blues sit down and realize we're just people and talk with each other. When you're involved with your group and another group, research them. Look on the internet, network. Consider what I taught you on the collaboration effect. Build connecting relationships, listening actively, educating judiciously to build bridges and negotiate closure. Consider the mediation techniques I just gave you on facts, issues, feelings, and interests. And then talk about it ahead of time. What are the roles and responsibilities, and how can we help each other to de-escalate between our group and their group, and not have the anger within us take over the situation. Well, you want to do is you want to focus on the problem, be tough on the problem and soft on the people, show compassion, avoid those two stinky twins of BO and BS. Have a calm place, have a quiet place, have a neutral place. Practice listening. I'm going to give you a little test here at the end, or a little example of something you can try on your own to practice listening on your own with somebody else. Give everybody a chance to speak. I'm here in Minnesota. We have a lot of indigenous tribes here in Minnesota, 11 different tribes. They have a conflict resolution technique that they pass a feather from one person to the next, so everybody gets a chance to speak. Give everyone a chance to speak and brainstorm ideas as a group to see what you might come up with. When you look at this guy, you might think, I don't have much in common with him. I'm going to tell you, if you want to reach out to him, we're not going to focus on beliefs. We're going to focus on values. He has values too. He wants respect. He also wants to talk with people honestly. He wants to have integrity. He wants to interact and be straightforward. He wants to be understood. We have common values. We need to find the common values and work towards common values, not towards common beliefs, but common values. It's not about me. It's all about we, but it starts with me. And I'm suggesting for de-escalation, this can start with you carrying out these techniques. You want to lead with compassion. Be calm, confident, and competent. That's what you are as a leader. That's what you want your doctor or nurse to be when they're taking care of you. You want them to be calm, confident, and competent when you're not doing well. On the other hand, you want to listen with empathy. This is what I'm talking about with listening. Be in their shoes, feel their pain, understand where they're coming from. You want to take actions that show that you really understand. And it all boils back down to this collaboration effect, connecting relationships and bonding with others, listening actively, educating judiciously. And why? Because it leads to building bridges and negotiating closure. I have a pocket guide I've given you as a PDF. The pocket guide looks like this. It's a little hard to read. The pocket guide is actually something that fits into a pocket like this, but it opens up into a trifold, and I'm giving you the two sides of the trifold. This is for you to take with you as a PDF. Hard to read that, so I've just blown up one side and the other. And then we don't have much time, so I'm just going to give you a highlight. On the left-hand column, on listening actively, listen with 100% attention. Ask open-ended questions. That means not yes, no questions, but questions where somebody has to think and actually provide an answer. Check your understanding with the other person. And on the other side of the pocket guide, on the left side here in bottom section, it says listening actively. My number one question, whether I'm working with gangs, in public housing, in neighborhood disputes, in the boardrooms of America, when I'm involved with mediating between businesses or businesses and government, what would you like to have happen? Now, you can ask that several ways, but that's my number one question. What would you like to have happen? And what are we going to try and do? Look at the middle column. Be tough on the problem and gentle on the people. Acknowledge your emotions and theirs without blame. Treat others as they would like to be treated. Positions polarize. Interests integrate. Behind every entrenched position is at least one interest. And those interests, that's what holds the seed to a solution. That's what we're trying to get to. There's a Chinese proverb that says, I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, I understand. So I'm going to give you an action item to do so that you can understand going forward. This is a listening exercise. I've done this with groups to as small as 50 or so to as large as over 1,000, big rooms. And I've said, going to get yourself a partner, going to talk with someone for 5 minutes. And what you're going to do is you're going to share something with them you have a concern about, something that happened on the way to work, on the way to school, something that happened with a neighbor, something's going on with a friend, anything you want. And when you're going to talk, they're going to listen. And for 5 minutes, when they listen, they're going to do these things. They're going to paraphrase. They're going to ask open-ended questions. They're going to summarize, suspend judgment, empathize, and they're not going to provide any advice, no solutions. They're just going to address and listen to what you're saying. And I'm suggesting you want to practice this, but Do that for 5 minutes and then switch and have the other person listen to you about any concerns that you have. And all they're going to do is listen to you for 5 minutes. So now you've passed. You've got the acronym. You've passed to know what the listening exercise is. The key now is to practice this. And I found in small groups to, again, as big as 1,000, I'll ask, how do you feel? And I always get this. I feel great. I feel great. Why? Because they've been listened to. And then I ask this question. When's the last time someone listened to you for 5 minutes? And they go, no. And then I said, when's the last time you listened to someone for 5 minutes that you've been in conflict with? When's the last time you listened to someone for 5 minutes that you've been in conflict with? That's why I'm suggesting you practice this. One, to see how it feels yourself, and then to say, I could do this. It's hard. This suspending judgment, it's hard. To not offer advice, it's hard. So it takes practice to do this. We don't just do this naturally, but by listening, that's how we can de-escalate so many situations. Well, with that, we've talked about the collaboration effect. We've talked about the elements of mediation. I've given you some tools, and I've suggested an exercise to help you going forward. If I can ever help you, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you. I have a newsletter that goes out to just under 10,000 people a month now. And if you want to get my newsletter, I'd be happy to send it to you. I just have a few links in there and some other minor things. It's not a big, long newsletter. But I provide that to folks because I'm trying to help. We're trying to make the world a better place. I know you are too, because you're here and you're listening to this too. So I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Take care. If I can ever help you, just reach out to me. Bye.
Thanks so much to Mike Gregory for sharing all of that amazing information with us. And thanks to you for watching. Please be sure to check out the other resources and activities that we have posted right now. And don't forget to come back next month for another amazing spotlight. Thank you.